And without further ado, I would like to call the chairperson for the next session, Mr. V. Shashank Kumar, who's an advocate in the High Court. Can we please have him on stage? And a round of applause, please, for Mr. V. Shashank Kumar. And the co-chair will be Dr. Suresh Bansal, President of Indian Association of Age Management. Our next topic, as I said, is a little away from medicine, and we believe it is quite necessary for everyone to have an idea of the legalities associated with aging. Our next speaker is a highly reputed lawyer and makes for a unique blend of medicine and law. He studied radiology and then went on to do an LLB. He is the founder president of the Indian Society for Health, Law and Ethics and was instrumental in drafting the Indian Transplantation of Human Organs Act in 1994. Presently, he is a senior advocate in the Supreme Court of India. Please join your hands and please welcome Dr. R. Kishore for this talk.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of all of us, I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Kishore. He straddles and has a very unique skill set because he is both in the health sciences and health laws as well as the legal field itself. His intellectual abilities have given him the ability to present more than 100 research papers in various international conferences, most of which stand published and also translated in various languages. I'm sure his beautiful insights on this very unique skill set will enrich us. So Dr. Kishore, the stage is all yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind introduction. I am grateful to the organizer of this conference, and in particular to my old and esteemed colleague, Dr. V.P. Bansal, who has extended this great opportunity to me. I am conscious that I am tuned to a highly receptive, perceptive and distinguished audience. But my topic is different away from the routine. But I will try to be brief and precise. And I'm greatly honored and I'm very happy to be a part of my earlier fraternity after a lapse of about 2 decades. I started my career in medicine in 1968 and I ended it in 2004 when I diversified into law, because I find that the purpose of both the disciplines is same, that is the service of those who are in the need, but the approach is different. Medicine is empirical while the law is conceptual. And since law is a work in progress, it always gives you an opportunity to sail through uncharted waters. So you are always in a position to unfold and more than unfold yourself, because it is not compartmentalized like medicine. Now, however, coming to this topic, can I have the next slide, please? Show me the next slide. Switch over the next slide, please. Okay, right. Now, the question is, and this is a fundamental question, what is dignified and successful aging? The expression successful aging is of wide import, carrying heterogeneous connotations, depending on individual perceptions. A shorter lifespan may be more rewarding than a longer life if the individual feels happiness and satisfaction with life for the present and the past. The saga of fulfillment is not limited to longevity. Swami Vivekananda died at 39, Alexander the Great at 35, 37. But the difference between the gloom and the glue may be subjective. even then certain objective criteria can be discerned. The advancing years that are free from disease, dependence, and discomfort, with intact serenity and self-confidence, may be defined as dignified aging. Now we have to see as to why this topic has become so important, and it is attracting a lot of interest, why it is so relevant nowadays as compared to the earlier times. So for that we have to analyze what is the evolving milieu. Now evolving milieu as compared to the earlier times have certain distinct characteristics. The first and foremost is the longer lifespan, then the advancing biotechnology, expanding phase of medicine, rising health consciousness, faster human interaction, globalization, communication, expanding job avenues, growing competition, and altered family structures. These are the new additions in the milieu, current milieu, if we compared it to the milieu several decades back. Now this evolving milieu has brought certain challenges. So what are those challenges? One is demographic transition, then multiplicity of stakeholders, escalating entitlements, expanding counterclaims, population migration, fragmented families, equitable resource distribution, paucity of resources, and then conceptual inadequacy. These are the challenges while we tune ourselves to counteract the side effects or the bliss of aging. So what are the essential perspectives? Once we are face to face with these challenges and we want to address those challenges, what are the essential perspectives? Freedom from disease and debility, elimination of age barriers, recognition of vulnerability, adequate medical care. I find a problem with these slides. Adequate medical care, housing, travel and entitlement, gainful employment, flexible employment opportunities, economic support and rehabilitation, physical security, mental peace and dignity, freedom from discrimination, isolation and exclusion, safeguard against neglect, abuse and exploitation, and the last one and the most important, relaxation from penal liabilities. As you will see in my subsequent slides, how the countries have diluted penal liabilities in case of the elderly. Now I come straight to the legal scenario. And I start from the USA, the oldest democracy. As early as 1965, the United States federal government enacted a law, Older American Act of 1965, because why they reaffirming the traditional American concept of the inherent dignity of the individual and declaring that the older people of the nation are entitled to, and it is the joint and several duty and responsibility of the government of the United States as well as of the several states and their political subdivisions and of the Indian tribes. The Indian tribe doesn't mean we Indian. Indian tribe, they refer to the indigenous people before the colonizers before colonization by the Europeans, there were people, so they still call them as Indian tribes. So end of Indian tribes to assist the older people to secure equal opportunity to the full and free enjoyment of a host of objectives specified in the said act. It's a very fine-tuned enactment. I am not giving the full details, and a very precise and a very vocal enactment, casting liability not only on the federal government but on all the states, and not only the states, the subdivisions in that state, the counties, the municipalities and all that. And everything there is mandatory. And if there is any violation, the state has to clarify. States are accountable for that. Then I come to another neighboring country, Canada. In Canada, there is a provision for relaxing penal provisions in the event of offense committed by the older persons. The Protecting Canada Senior Act 2012 amends the criminal code to add vulnerability due to age as an aggravating circumstance for sentencing purposes, considering the old age and other personal circumstances, including health and financial situation. The state's approach is to abate moral opprobrium and discrimination on the basis of old age in all the social areas. So this is a distinct legislation that if the same crime is committed by two persons, the older person is vulnerable. His cognitive faculties are subdued. His error of judgment is broken. So those circumstances have to be kept into mind while sentencing a person for having committed an offense. Now I come to another country across the Atlantic, the United Kingdom. Elderly care in the UK is highly regulated, and care providers, whether residential, nursing homes or care at home, are rigorously inspected to ensure clients are comfortable, safe and healthy. In the case of live-in care, providers may be members of the United Kingdom Care Association. If they are members of the Live Care Hub, it is a requirement they are UKHCA members, and if the provider manages carers and oversees service provisions, they must be regulated by the Care Quality Commission. Next, I come to the Council of Europe. As per the reflections of the Council of Europe report, Human Rights of Elder Persons and their Comprehensive Care, produced by the Committee on Social Reforms, Health and Sustainable Development, the older people continue to suffer from negative stereotypes that lead to discrimination, isolation and exclusion. Then I come to France. Although France is a part of European Union, but culturally they are slightly different, so they have their own laws. In France, the parliament enacted a law in 2015 in order to address the challenge of population aging. The main thrust of the law was an increase in the independent social allowance to combat inequality and the introduction of a new tax to fund prevention and support regarding loss of autonomy. France provides home help services to around 25% of elderly French residents, providing assistance to meet basic needs such as personal hygiene, transport, cleaning and shopping. Services are available to all residents over the age of 60 who require them, but whether or not it is covered by the state depends upon your income. Then I come to Australia. The Aged Care Act of 1997 is the main law, covers government funded aged care. It sets out rules for things like funding, regulation, approval of providers, quality of care, and rights of people receiving care. Laws on diversity and discrimination also apply to aged care. Many aged care services are subsidized by the Department of Health to help keep costs manageable and affordable. One may be eligible for government funded aged care services if he or she is 65 years of age or older and need help to do the things she used to. Aged care services include care to one's home. It can help with things like personal care and transport. Now come to South Africa. ये बड़ा हो सकता है कैसे? बड़ा कर दीजिए, दिक्कत हो रही है हमको पढ़ने में बहुत. आपने इतनी छोटी विंडो बना दी, इसको फुल स्क्रीन कर दीजिए. Yeah, much better. I am very comfortable now. Now I'll repeat this South Africa because now I can read legibly. Now South Africa is one of the few jurisdictions which has created a national institute specifically addressing older adults, and that is known as Aged Persons Care Act 1967. More than 65 years ago, which addresses abuse in residential care, contains a broad definition of abuse. However, the Older Persons Act 2006, assented to but not yet a law, codifies definition, emphasizing breach of trust, and applies to the more general South African population. The law defines the term abuse and neglect of the elderly to describe situations in which individuals over the age of 65 experience battering, verbal abuse, exploitation, denial of rights, forced confinement, neglected medical needs, or other type of personal harm, usually at the hands of someone responsible for assisting them in their activities of daily living. Now I come to Japan. Japan is a super aged country, has long been a forerunner in the adoption of technology in LTC. With one of the highest proportions of elderly population in the world, Japan is strengthening elder care. In 2000, the country implemented public long-term care insurance known as LTCI, which includes preventive care, home visits, day services, short stay services, residential services, and long-term care. Now I come to the Indian milieu. I have highlighted the scenario outside. Now what is the Indian milieu? As of 2019, over 139 million people living in India are aged over 60, and this proportion is expected to almost double to 19.5% in 2050, with 390 million people aged over 60. This means that every 1 in 5 Indians is likely to be a senior citizen. Many older people in India are not aware of their rights due to high occurrence of illiteracy and lack of alertness. Surveys have found that 1 out of every 6 older persons living in urban areas in India aren't obtaining proper nutrition. Out of every 3 older person does not obtain sufficient health care or medicine, and 1 out of every 2 older persons don't receive due respect for good conduct from family members or people in general. Now I come to the Constitution of India, the basic law. What is the spirit of our nation? The Indian Constitution, in Part 4, that is the directive principles of state policy. In our Constitution, citizens are safeguarded against injustice in two different manners. One is Part 3, another is Part 4. Part 3 contains fundamental rights, from Right 1 to Right 32, which are justiciable. They are fundamental rights. One can approach directly to the highest court of the land under Article 32. But then there are directive principles, which are delineated in Part 4 of the Constitution. They are the guiding beacon for the legislature while they are enacting the law, but they are not justiciable. You cannot claim them in the court of law. So what I am telling you is written in Part 4, that is the directive principle of state policy, contains specific provisions about old age. Article 41 of the said directive principles mandates that the state shall, within the limits of economic capacity and development, make effective provisions for securing right to work, to education, and to public assistance in case of unemployment and old age. Old age is specifically mentioned therein. Sickness and disablement, and in other cases of undeserved want. Then there is another article, namely Article 47, which asserts that the state must raise the level of nutrition and standard of living and to improve the public health of the people. These provisions entitle the elderly to live a healthy, peaceful, dignified life with social, economic, and political support from the government. Now there are few statutory enactments, although they are far and few, but they are there, and many people don't know about it. Now one of the enactment is Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956, empowers the elderly people with legal rights to claim maintenance from their children. Laws and rights under this act can, however, be assessed only by Hindus. Then there is a wider application law enacted recently, Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007. Is a legislation to provide more effective provision for maintenance and welfare of parents and senior citizens. As per Section 2B of the Act, maintenance includes provision for food, clothing, residence, medical attendance, and treatment. As per Section 4.2, the obligation of the children or relative, is very important, or relative, as the case may be, to maintain a senior citizen extends to the needs of such citizen so that senior citizen may lead a normal life. As per Section 19, the government is under obligation to establish and maintain old age homes to provide necessary medical care and means of entertainment to the inhabitants of such homes. Now I come to my conclusion. Life's path from the mythical fountain of youth to the ultimate destination is clearly defined. Aging and health, being the expression of cosmic consciousness, are the inevitable realities. Even the stars age and become black holes. A detailed account of aging strategies in different jurisdictions is not within the scope of this presentation, but the study reveals paucity of matching strategies across the world, and the global panorama continues to be gloomy. The older people continue to suffer from negative stereotypes that lead to discrimination, isolation, and exclusion. A healthy aging leads to prolongation of lifespan. Although a blissful experience, it may have serious social repercussions in the nature of population growth, inaccessibility of resources, inequitable distribution, prejudice to younger generation, changes in lifestyles, altered family structures, and human relationships. The ethics of aging therefore contemplates a holistic discourse in accordance with human virtues and social values. The concept therefore calls for a great degree of scientific, social, religious, and cultural integration. Now, what is the way forward? The older generation has, now this is my perception, others may not agree, but this is my candid perception. The older generation has recouped the benefits as younger ones for decades as jobs, opportunities, and family care. Now it is the turn of the younger ones. The aged are inherently obligated to adjust lifestyles in a manner that the younger ones are not deprived of what is due to them. Older have to tame their expectations accordingly. Society resources are not unlimited. Equity is important, which in the instant context means distribution of resources in accordance with what is due, not what is desired. The genuine concerns apart, situation requires a change in the attitude. Perhaps our ancestors were wiser. After a certain age, they used to retire to jungles, freeing their families and the society from the burden of their care. I find the aged in our society lack initiative. In the USA, as early as 1981, the aged formed American Federation of Aging Research. Now I conclude here, but I have a temptation of sharing one poem which I wrote. So this is one of the poems from my anthology on the wider perspectives of life. Sky merging with earth, an illusion called horizon. Life merging with pleasures, an illusion called success. Square meals and a cozy sleep, minus craving for endless sleep. Loss and gain, howsoever deep, contentment is a joy with sweep. When one amasses the heap, lure for more and more beep, fears, alarms, and qualms creep, worries not the serenity steep. Life is lovely and precious, not cheap. Delight and fulfillment one may reap, with tranquility and calm, not the leap. Life's blue waters are not ankle deep. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kishore, for that wonderful and enlightening experience. Your words truly resonated with all of us. On behalf of everybody, since we're running short on time, I'll just ask one simple question. You talked about how the law in India with respect to the Senior Citizens Act gave the senior citizens numerous rights. And you also touched upon how not many people are aware of it. So what would be your words of advice for a young lawyer like myself, or the numerous doctors sitting here who interact with senior citizens on a daily basis? How should we counsel or advise our senior citizens, clients and patients so that they become more aware about these laws?
You see, as I cited, as early as 1967, the American population came together and they formed an association, voluntary organization. Almost 60 years have passed. But what I find that there's a lack of voluntary effort. And we cannot look only at the government alone. We must realize there is a difference between equity and equality. The roots of law, of course, lie in equality. We have Article 14 as a fundamental right of our Constitution. But equality means equality among equals. So in the context of an issue like care of the elderly, we require equity. Because the younger ones have a right, which may be more compelling, because they have a longer lifespan before them. And moreover, they are yet to reap the benefits. I am 80 now. I have reaped benefits. I have played my innings. And even as I said, stars do age. So it depends. There are two kinds of persons on this planet. One are those who want to add years to their life. Others are those who add life to their years. So there has to be change in our basic approach and perspective. That is requirement number one. And for that, the elderly have to be educated and sensitized. Then look here, you expect that much which is due to them. You should not encroach upon the rights of those whose rights may be more compelling than you. Because you owe it to them. You owe it to them. As they have done for you. So that symbiosis is contemplated. But that is just a part of the game. What I find that we are dependent too much on legislative aspects. But there's nothing, there's a vacuum, there's a void in the social arena. So that needs to be developed. It has to be it has to come a kind of horizontal affair, not a vertical affair. So that a person younger like you, and even I may be older by age in chronology, but biologically, spiritually, I am not old. Because old age is a very subjective affair, as I told you in the very beginning, in the introduction. Old age is an expression of your mind, more than your body. So we should all make a combined and collective effort, realizing that equity is the major player, not equality.
Thank you, Dr. Kishore. May we have a huge round of applause for Dr. Kishore. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. That was really enlightening, and I loved your poem. I must say, it's really nice. You should probably publish it. Can I please have the chairpersons deliver a small token of appreciation from our end? Thank you, sir. Thank you.